Hey there, friends, and welcome back to another 3-Minute Thoughts. My name is Derek, and in the next 3 minutes, we're going to look at Mark 11 and John 12. Now, these two chapters capture a climactic moment in Jesus' ministry as he enters Jerusalem. This is going to start the final stage of his earthly ministry. These chapters are going to emphasize his messianic authority, his judgment, the coming passion, and the cost of following him. You'll notice that there's this theme that echoes over these chapters leading to the end of Jesus' time on earth. Another viewpoint of the triumphal entry. You'll notice we're going to see this from a bunch of different angles, and they're going to help us see the round picture of what it looked like when Jesus went into Jerusalem on that what day we call Palm Sunday. So Mark 11, 1-11, Jesus approaches Jerusalem and instructs the disciples to get a colt. He rides on that into the city, fulfilling Zechariah 9, in that phrase where it says, "Your king comes humble and mounted on a colt the foal of a donkey." This parade is not one of earthly power. Rather, it's a symbol or a signal of the messianic authority clothed in humility, the king whose victory is not through force but sacrifice. Then we turn to the next section in Mark 11 where Jesus enters into the temple and he drives out the money changers, turning over their tables. He declares, "My house shall be called a house of prayer for all nations, but you have made it a den of robbers." The idea here is that there's prophetic judgment and restoration happening all at the same time. Jesus is confronting corruption in a religious practice, but he's asserting God's expectations of holiness at the same time. As we finish out chapter 11, the next day, the fig tree that Jesus mentioned before, we saw before in the previous section, it withers, symbolizing the consequences of fruitlessness and spiritual hypocrisy. The big key lesson here is that God's kingdom demands faithful obedience and recognition of divine authority. As we flip into John's gospel and look at chapter 12, we see that Mary anoints Jesus' feet with some expensive perfume, and Judas, he objects. He says, "It's way too costly. Why are we wasting it on some dude's feet?" Jesus says, "She has done this in preparation for my burial." This act highlights an element of sacrificial devotion, and it's an insight into Jesus' coming death, something that the disciples wouldn't get until it actually happened. Then we focus on John's account of the triumphal entry. Hosanna, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. The crowd sees Jesus as a political Messiah, but the gospel emphasizes time and time again that Jesus' kingship points to sacrificial service and ultimately glory through the cross. Jesus will predict his death in verses 20-36. Greeks would seek Jesus, signaling the global reach of the kingdom. The imagery here reinforces that Jesus' kingdom advances through sacrifice, humility, and obedience, not worldly triumph. And we end this chapter with, despite the signs he performed, many don't believe. Jesus emphasizes again that his words are from the Father, divine authority and submission to godly rule. Be well, friends.